All right, everyone. It is an honor to be here today. I'm so glad to be able to talk to you about a topic that we think is very exciting, very special, very forward in terms of law enforcement and the partnership that is so essential to making sure that we deal with this kind of crime in a way that it is effective, not only in the United States, but around the world. And so I thank the Global Anti-Scam Alliance. I thank Amazon for inviting me here today, and I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to talk to you about a topic that is now one of my top priorities as the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia. We can start with a term that most of you are familiar with, and that is pig butchering, scamdemic, crypto catfishing. These are just some of the terms that are used to describe crypto investment fraud, which is an ever-rising internet crime aimed at Main Street America. Since 2020, reports of this fraud have quadrupled. In 2024 alone, the FBI estimates that Americans have been scammed out of more than $9 billion related to cryptocurrency fraud. But that number is likely a gross undercount, given the lack of reporting by victims, many of whom are often embarrassed for falling for these scams. Experts estimate that the loss is probably 15 times more, or $135 billion. Who are the victims? How are they contacted? It starts with a very simple transaction. The victim may receive a text message, for example, "Hi, Patty, I didn't see you at the gym today." It's a classic example of the first approach, the kind of contact that people first receive. The unsuspecting victim replies that, "You likely have the wrong number, I'm not Patty." The simple mistake leads to a back and forth between the victim and the scammer, with the scammer eventually gaining the victim's trust. And the amazing part of this is that people are very friendly, they're very understanding, they're very gracious, and they fall into the trap. After some time, the scammer then convinces the victim that they should invest in cryptocurrency, that first on legitimate crypto exchanges, but then they move on to more lucrative private investment exchanges. These, of course, are the fake sites, where the supposed investments produce insane returns. When the victim then tries to withdraw the money, they are then told that they have to pay a tax or some kind of fee. In reality, there is no money. The money is long gone, having moved through a series of unhosted cryptocurrency wallets, tumblers, mixers, in a very sophisticated money laundering operation. Now, the consequences of these scams on Americans are devastating. Older Americans in particular are subject to being victimized. Many of them are lonely, looking to speak with someone, anyone, and so they actively communicate. The scammers, of course, are knowledgeable. They take advantage of this vulnerability in the older population, stealing their entire life savings and draining their retirement funds. A few examples. A 60-year-old woman told us that she spent $40,000 initially on the fraudulent cryptocurrency. She stated that she was provided with actual screenshots that showed the profits of her cryptocurrency investment. The victim was quoted as saying that the screenshot evidence was telling me I was making this profit, and that's what encouraged me to invest more. In the end, the 60-year-old woman lost $1 million. Another victim has told us that, "I felt that I was financially assaulted, and it's a devastating feeling." And my third example, a Virginia man. He is the perfect example of the utter devastation that this crime imposes on innocent victims. His daughter noted that there wasn't even enough money to pay for her father's headstone after he killed himself. He lost everything to the cryptocurrency scammers. This can be, ladies and gentlemen, an economic homicide. Many of these victims do not have the opportunity to go back into the workforce. They can't get another job even if they try. Many of these people end up going back into government, or going to government for the first time to be able to be a part of the social net that we have. They are destitute, and the social safety net is the only thing they have to turn to. So who? Human trafficking and organized Chinese crime. The fraud victims are only half of this very tragic story. The perpetrators of these crimes, the scammers, are often themselves victims. For instance, many of these scammers, they respond to ads on U.S. social media platforms, taking lucrative jobs to work at call centers supposedly in Thailand. But when they show up in Bangkok, they are shuttled over borders. They are held at compounds against their will. These compounds end up being penal colonies or concentration camps, entire cities that are built to scam. The trafficked victims are then trained to scam other victims and ordered to aim their efforts specifically at American victims due to the wealth of Americans. And if they refuse, and if they don't make enough money in the scam, they are beaten, they are electrocuted, they are sent to be sex workers themselves, and they are even killed. How do we know this? We've seen evidence of this in social media videos, reporting by reputable NGOs, and from firsthand accounts from trafficked victims who have provided that evidence to law enforcement in our cases. The masterminds behind these operations, publicly reported to be running the scam compounds in Southeast Asia and benefiting from the laundered crypto funds, are the Chinese organized crime syndicates. According to numerous public reports, for the last 15 years, Chinese transnational criminal organizations, or TCO, transnational criminal organizations, have been establishing footholds in Southeast Asia for gambling schemes after being pushed out of China by Chinese government due to the illegality of gambling in China. Along with their investments in Southeast China, in Asia, with China's Belt and Road Initiative, the TCOs have made substantial inroads in Burma, Laos, and Cambodia. And according to the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission, in Burma, several Chinese mafia families have established operations. Shi Zhejiang, a convicted criminal, launched a $15 billion smart city called Yatai New City, which has grown into a notorious scam hub. And early this month, a Chinese court recently sentenced 21 members of the Bai family, which reportedly controlled 41 different compounds. And in Cambodia, scam compounds are estimated to generate more than 40% of the GDP, with Chinese nationals obtaining citizenship from the Cambodian government. Jinbei Casino, reported to be one of the most notorious scam compounds in Cambodia, run by Chen Ji, well-known communist criminal with investment by a family member of a Cambodian senior government official. And finally, in Laos, Chinese criminal boss Jay Wei was granted permission from the government to create the Golden Triangle Special Economic Zone, which has turned into a hub for scam activity. Zhao Wei was given a medal for bravery by the Laotian government in 2022. So the scam industry in Burma, Cambodia, and Laos is estimated to generate more than $40 billion a year for Chinese TCOs operations in the region, and they are specifically focused on us, on Americans, our money, and our data. And now for the infrastructure. These crypto scam operations are using our own United States infrastructure against us to perpetrate their crimes. The Chinese organized crime groups recruit human trafficked labor to become scammers through American social media platforms. Then the scammers meet their U.S. victims on other social media platforms like Facebook, using the wrong number text, or through U.S. dating applications like Tinder, Match, and Bumble. The scammers then move to the conversation on WhatsApp or other encrypted communications. They convince their victims to take money out of their U.S. bank accounts and invest in legitimate crypto platforms marketed in the United States. It is then that the scammers convince their victims to shuttle their money to fake platforms that the scammers both created and control. Many such websites are hosted in the United States with .com addresses in order to show legitimacy to their U.S. victims. The scammers use apps marketed in the Google and the Apple App Store, again, to show legitimacy to their U.S. victims. They store training documents on U.S.-run document storage platforms, and they use U.S. AI companies to determine the best method to target their U.S. victims and what conversations are most likely to spark interest. And many of the scam compounds in Southeast Asia are connecting to the internet through U.S. satellites like Starlink. The solution. The time has come to wage a comprehensive and targeted battle against this scamdemic. President Trump has made combating transnational organized crime a priority of his administration. And Chinese TCOs play a significant role in drug trafficking organization that the administration seeks to combat. According to the Department of Treasury, Chinese money laundering networks are global, they are pervasive, and they launder proceeds from Mexico-based drug cartels and are involved in other significant underground money movement schemes within the United States and around the world. President Trump has also sought to make the United States a leading haven for cryptocurrency. And it's important that Americans understand the safe use of the commodity. There are no tricks that can be a part of cryptocurrency. As part of the president's goals, we must expose these fraudulent contacts and pitfalls so that Americans are secure in their investments. That's when I used to work for Fox. I just turned around and saw this. They did hair and makeup every day. The government does not provide hair and makeup. Smart move on my part, huh? Okay. This Department of Justice is going to lead the way. We're not going to stand by while the Chinese organized crime victimizes Americans and bleeds us dry, and bleeds dry the hard-earned investments of American citizens. This is a national security issue, and it is a homeland security issue. The answer is a novel approach, bringing law enforcement actions, intergovernmental solutions, and private-public partnerships to bear on this problem. Private-public partnerships are essential. Law enforcement cannot do it alone. If there's one thing I've learned in more than 3 decades in this work, it is that we need the private sector. We need you to help us in our endeavor here. A few weeks ago, I announced a first-of-its-kind law enforcement initiative, a Scam Center Strike Force. As the prosecutor in the nation's capital, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia is well situated to engage with our partner agency across government. We not only have the authority to charge foreign defendants, but we also have the authority to seize foreign property and assets. And alongside our partners at the FBI, the United States Secret Service, and Maine Justice, we formed the Scam Center Strike Force. Now, most criminal investigations, if you're familiar with law enforcement, start with the victim and then work their way to the perpetrators. But we're flipping the narrative. The scam centers in Southeast Asia are notorious. Through the documented work of passionate NGOs, intergovernmental organizations, and the Department of State, we know exactly where these scam centers are operating, and they're doing so in the open. And with the information from U.S. companies, many of you are in this room, we also know how they're operating. The mission of the Scam Center Strike Force is to focus at the top on the compounds themselves. First, we identify the most prolific scam compounds in Southeast Asia and charge their leaders and their entities supporting them. Second, we seize and disable the U.S. infrastructure that is used by the scam compound, which is the manner and the means of their committing the crime. And third, we trace and seize stolen funds in order to return assets to the victims. Our Scam Center Strike Force brings together a cadre of resources across agencies. Our best and our brightest are being brought together to attack this problem by securing our United States infrastructure, returning money to the victims, and bringing these perpetrators to justice. Already, we have been hard at work doing this. We've seized already over $400 million, which is being directly returned to victims. We have seized websites being used by Tai Chang compounds in Burma, one of the sites where the victimization of Americans originates. And we have also seized Starlink satellite terminals and accounts that are being used to connect to the internet at scam centers near Three Pagoda Pass in Burma. But we can't do it alone. The whole of government is what is needed. We're using a whole government approach. We partnered with other agencies, and we're working with the Department of Treasury to identify individuals and entities operating the scam centers, also working with the Office for Foreign Assets Control, OFIC, to designate the same as specifically designated nationals, preventing U.S. individuals from providing services to the same. For instance, as part of this initiative, OFAC recently designated the Democratic Karen Benevolent Army, a Burmese army group known as DKBA, as a supporting arm of the Scam Center. DKBA is operating both in Tai Chang and Three Pagodas Pass scam centers, where our strike force seized the infrastructure. We partnered with the Department of State to work with foreign governments in the region on the threat. Through collaboration and funding, the State Department has already pledged to assist us in obtaining information about individuals being used by these scam centers by offering significant financial rewards. We have partnered with Commerce to identify scam centers where technology is being exported so that Commerce can prevent such exports by adding those locations to its entity list. We're working across government with an array of other agencies to bring everything we've got to bear on this threat. And as for, finally, the public-private partnership, we can't do it alone. We're committed to our partnership to combat this threat, and this is where we need your help. U.S. companies are needed to help our strike force in our effort to cripple the scam centers. We want to work with partners in the United States in a public-private partnership to ensure that corrupt scammers will immediately be cut off and Americans be protected. The fact that you're here means that your organization already cares about this threat. But in addition to doing the right thing to protect against this threat, doing so is good business for you. Left unchecked, the scam center will continue to grow, and it will result in U.S. users believing that they can no longer trust legitimate U.S. platforms as safe. It will devalue our social media platforms, our internet services, and our crypto platforms. Preventing the U.S. infrastructure from being used as a means to perpetrate this fraud benefits everyone. It safeguards Americans and their assets, and it helps the prosperity of private U.S. industry. So far, I'm very impressed and very grateful because we have received high-level commitments from Meta, from Microsoft, from Google, and many others have already come forward to begin meetings with our strike force management team to collaborate. On Monday, for example, we took additional actions against the Burmese scam compound Tai Chang, which is affiliated with that now designated DKBA military group. We seized .com websites that were falsely purporting to provide investment opportunities, and we contacted multiple U.S. victims who had no idea that they were being scammed. In tandem, and based on the real-time information we were receiving in the investigation, Meta voluntarily disabled more than 2,000 accounts on its network that were linked to the compound. We're also working with Google and with Apple to remove apps that are put in their app store that are connected to these fake investment platforms. This is a type of partnership that can lead to immediate benefits for all of us. And it is the kind of partnership that crystallizes how we value this country, our victims, and business. This is what makes America special. The Scam Center Strike Force will push against scam compounds at the highest level, but we need industry to take the laboring oar to fight this threat. We will not succeed through a game of whack-a-mole, but rather through concerted and concentrated efforts that deploy all the tools available to stop these scams at the highest level. With the ingenuity that you and private industry brings to bear, together with the partnership and tools that we have in the federal government, I am confident that we will begin to stem the rising tide of this horrific crime. The Southeast Asian scam centers have met their match, and I look forward to overseeing this strategic takedown of scam centers and the Chinese criminal organizations behind them. Thank you very much for your attention, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. Take care.
U.S. Attorney Pirro, I really would like to thank you very, very much for your presentation. You're not only making Americans aware of the issue, you're fighting back internationally, and we love to support your strike force in any way possible.
Thank you.
We have a tradition, which I think you're very familiar with. We have a challenge. We have a challenge going, and I would like you to give this as a thank you for supporting our cause. Thank you very much.